Analysis of iris obfuscation. Generalizing eye information processes for privacy studies in eye tracking. Eye tracking-based research has shown that human eyes reveal insights into both physical and mental properties of their owners. We use the term eye information to refer to these properties. Because of the increased sharing of data and prevalence of eye tracking data, knowledge of exactly what is shared and development of methods for preventing information leakage is increasingly important. This work concerns selective removal of sensitive information in eye tracking data. It presents a framework for describing eye information security and analyzes specific methods for preventing iris pattern recognition. The presented research is characterized by three distinct contributions to the field of eye tracking. The first is a framework for understanding how information flows in eye tracking systems and how different eye information sources interact. The second is a set of methods for preventing iris recognition while retaining utility for gaze estimation. And the third is a methodology for analyzing selective security methods. An eye tracker is a combination of hardware and software that implements some application. The application may run locally or remotely and may expose external user endpoints. The system captures information through digital encoding of eye information. This model promotes two approaches to eye information security. The first approach is to focus on the user endpoint of a larger system to prevent information leaks through the application itself. We call this outwardly directed security because it focuses on external risks. The other approach is to view all data in the pipeline as sensitive because it contains possibly sensitive information that is not necessarily needed for the current application. We call this internally directed security. An eye tracker is a signal processing system. Eye information and other signals are encoded through the image capturing process into an image signal, which is then further processed to recreate the original eye properties. The image thus contains encoded sensitive information, which should be separated from other signal sources. For this, we introduce the concepts of obfuscation and utility. Let us focus on just the iris and gaze properties for now. Obfuscation is the process of hiding or removing information from unstructured data. This is at odds with the usefulness of the data for some predefined application. This usefulness is named utility. Fundamentally then, internally directed security methods need to be aware of both metrics. Information theory describes how obfuscation and utility are related. The entropy of each signal is a measure of the information it contains. Because the signals are dependent, there will be entropy in the system shared by multiple signals. This is called mutual information. The entropy that is left is conditional entropy, which is parallel to the concept of conditional probability. In this view, obfuscation is simply a minimization of mutual information and a maximization of conditional entropy between a property and the image. Utility is then the exact opposite. The experimental part of this work is motivated by current lack of detailed iris obfuscation analyses. The iris pattern is a very stable biometric used for large-scale applications of personal identification. Since the capturing conditions are similar to that of head-mounted eye tracking, iris recognition can be performed on eye tracking data. Current research has tested optical defocus and a noise generation method for obfuscating the iris. We contribute methods that are better suited to selective obfuscation by utilizing the information relationship revealed by our framework. Our approaches assume iris patterns to be primarily defined by high-frequency signal components and gaze information to be primarily defined by edges and low-frequency components. We consider three method categories. Filter-based methods try to remove iris pattern information while retaining edges. Noise-based methods have two actions. First, they try to confuse the iris recognition algorithm by adding random high-frequency data. Second, they override existing information. The noise is drawn for each pixel individually. And finally, we combine the two base approaches. We combine specifically the bilateral filter method and Cauchy noise method. We introduce a methodology for testing the practical security of obfuscation methods for iris recognition. Although we consider multiple attack strategies in the paper, here we focus on just the worst case, where the attacker has access to a labeled dataset and has the ability to perform the obfuscation function on all the samples. This makes it possible to estimate the iris code distance distributions and select an optimal threshold. Because the distributions are assumed to overlap significantly due to the obfuscation function, the ideal threshold for an attacker is just the one that maximizes recall for some minimum level of precision. Requiring precision equal 1 provides a lower bound on the fraction of images that can be correctly identified. Our results are promising for the two methods that combine bilateral filtering and Cauchy noise addition. At relatively low gaze errors, they vastly outperform all other methods. Equally important, however, is how easy it is to get a false sense of security if the probabilistic nature of the problem is not adequately considered. Sadly, due to the very low ratio of true positives to true negatives, the metric precision is limited to approximately 1 in 17,000. Conclusion. In this presentation, we have laid out our argument for the importance of considering internally directed security in eye tracking. It's not enough to protect processed data through encryption or differential privacy, because the raw tracking data itself may contain sensitive information. We have provided a more coherent view of internally directed security in eye tracking by presenting a framework for modeling security in terms of information in a communication system and presenting a methodology for evaluating perceived security. Finally, we have presented obfuscation methods that significantly improve on earlier research, while demonstrating that security measures can potentially be deceiving given enough attacker resources.